Guys, welcome back to the Post School Podcast. Now, today we're talking about something that many of us, myself included, avoid. It's messy, it's raw, it hurts, it sucks. And I want to talk about it, and that is grief. Now, I've had a pretty cushy, beautiful, amazing childhood and upbringing, and I've been really lucky. I've not had to experience a ton of grief. But as we all know, as we all find out, life throws curveballs. Shit happens. Stuff that you wish didn't happen. Grief is universal. Everyone is going to feel this sense of loss throughout their life. And we are all going to wish that we could get rid of it or stop it from happening. But unfortunately, we can't. And in that hurt and that pain, I think there is so much to learn about ourselves and about life that if you can understand how to sit in that place and feel the emotions and learn from it, it can serve you in a really powerful way as you move through life and towards new shitty moments. So today I'm going to share a few stories that of my experiences with grief as I'm getting older, as well as some tools that have helped me get through it. And we're going to answer some of your questions on grief as well. So stick around. This one is going to be deep, potentially hard to listen to for some, but really powerful, I hope, and practical. My goal is to give you some tips or techniques that are going to help you go through these periods of grief that you are inevitably going to face and that I will face again in my lifetime. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Just a quick note before I get into it. If you want to skip to the practical advice side of the podcast, then just fast forward through to minute 20, 21-ish. That way you'll skip all my story. But if you want to hear about my own story and my own experiences with grief, then feel free to keep listening. Now, I guess the place to start is by sharing some of my moments of grief, especially in the last 2 years. Like I said, I had a great childhood. I very rarely had moments of intense grief. Most of my family members are still alive. My grandparents are still around. My parents, siblings, family pets. We had one dog pass away, and that was sad, but I wasn't with that dog for my entire upbringing. So yeah, life until my 20s was pretty okay. I didn't have any severe moments of grief. And then since leaving Australia and moving to Bali, I've had a few moments that have absolutely rocked me. And I think to start, it's really important to acknowledge the idea that grief is different for every person. It doesn't make sense to compare your grief to someone else's. And I think this is something that we can fall victim to. If something bad happens in our life, and we try to reframe that as, oh, well, it could be worse, or it's not as bad as this person. I think that's a really harmful way of looking at it, because by telling yourself that what you feel is not valid or rejecting your emotions, it's only going to lead to further issues. And the truth is, the best way to get over grief and deal with it is to feel the emotions and accept that it's a part of life. You're grieving, no matter what the circumstance or what the experience, is valid and real, and it hurts and it sucks. So on that, let me tell you about my stories of grief. And I caveat this with the story of not comparing grief, because to many, my moments of grief might not be as comparatively intense as what yours were, but for me, this is all I know, and it sucked. So the two largest moments of loss that I've experienced in the last 2 years was raising and losing my puppies. When I got to Bali, Danny and I fostered a puppy, and I said, we're not keeping this thing. There's no way, because I knew that I would get attached. And within one night, I was attached. And her name was Luna. She was a beautiful rescue puppy found on the streets of Kuta. And we took her in, and we decided we're going to adopt her. We're going to raise her as our own. And when we leave Bali and when we travel, we're going to bring her with us. Whether it's to the UK or Australia, Luna is now part of our family. And so we raised her, and she got really sick really early. She got parvovirus, and we thought we were going to lose her. And only after a few weeks of knowing that puppy, the emotions that we felt around seeing her so sick was so intense. I felt so sad for this little puppy that I was already beginning to love. And the fact that I was helpless and couldn't help her really broke me. So anyway, she survived parvo, our little fighter, got through that virus and went on to live an incredible little puppyhood. 12 months we got with her. She was the best dog. You know, she didn't wee or poo inside, not once. She was so independent, and she got on with dogs. Oh, she was beautiful. Anyway, we raised Luna for 12 months, and then we went away to Australia for a week to, actually my auntie had just passed away, and that was really sad for me. She was sick for a little while, so I had time to process what was going to happen, but losing her hurt a lot, and I miss her deeply. And when we were away, Luna went for a walk in the rice fields. We had some friends fostering her, and she always took herself out into the rice fields. She loved it in there. Just on the back of our house, there was a few kilometers of rice fields. She would just play in there all day and then come home for dinner. And she took a walk and never came back. And our friends called us that night to say she hasn't come back for dinner, and we thought, it's just Luna, she'll be okay, she'll come back at some point. Then morning hit, we hadn't heard anything. She had an Apple AirTag on her, but the AirTags are shit. You need to be near a device with cell reception for the AirTag to ping. So it went off when she was out there, and we could see like her last known location, but it just stopped moving and it never pinged again. So we weren't really sure what had happened. Was she taken? Is she still out there? Did she get lost? Or is she dead? And we just didn't know. So then next morning, still nothing. That evening, nothing. And by this point, I was starting to fear the worst. And then our friends went and took a bike ride through the rice fields to look for her. And there she was, floating in a river in the rice fields. And just like that, gone. We still don't know exactly what happened. We think she may have been poisoned. The rice farmers tend to leave baited chicken in the rice fields to get rid of the stray dogs and mice and rats and stuff that eat the rice crop. Luna was a smart girl. I don't think she would have been attacked by a snake. That's also a possibility. So here I am in Australia, not even in Bali to help look for her or help her or anything like that. And we had to process the fact that she was gone and she wasn't coming back. And all I could think in those moments was how scared she may have been. We could see she was on her way home for the location where she was. Did she get really sick and start coming home looking for mum and dad to help her? I don't know. I can't figure that out. I don't know what she would have been doing. But that moment was really tough. I've never felt my world be ripped apart like it was that day. It felt like the earth stopped spinning. Like the whole universe just went to absolute chaos. Nothing made sense. Nothing felt right. I didn't know what to do. And yeah, Mum said at that point, day by day, that's all you can do, moment by moment. You know, when life gets really intense to that point, and that's what grief does, all you can do is reduce the timeline. You stop thinking in terms of years and you start thinking in terms of minutes, you know, and that's the key to getting through grief. You don't know what the future holds. You don't know what's going to happen. So to relieve some of that anxiety around the future, just focus on the moment you're in right now. And that's what I started doing, and it really helped me get through that. You know, a few days until we went back to Bali, and then when I was still here in Australia, I was looking for every sign I could that she was still around. It was the first time I'd really experienced the loss of something that was in my every single day. 70% of my thoughts during the day revolved around this creature that I loved. And she didn't even say a word. It's crazy. But yeah, just moment by moment, I got through those days, and then we went back to Bali, and I had to deal with the reality of Bali without Luna anymore. And it just felt wrong. I was angry, sad, confused, so many emotions. So that was one. And then crazily, at the same time, we were actually fostering another puppy just for a little while. She was dropped with her sisters at a vet without any home at literally a couple weeks old. And we decided to foster her until she found a forever home. So we had the puppy and Luna at the same time. And then we went away, we lost Luna, and we were actually coming back to this little puppy, who we named Olive, because she had beautiful white coat with sort of orangey patches to her fur. Oh, she was beautiful. Not as smart as Luna. She was a bit dumb, but she was such a funny dog in her own way. And she really helped us push through the loss of Luna. In those moments where the house would have otherwise been so quiet because there were no puppies, we had Olive there to fill the silence. And I think so many people say not to replace grief with something else, and I don't think that's what we were doing. I think the sense of responsibility was really important for us to feel like we still had a purpose, and that really helped us get through that. And then, sure enough, we fell in love with Olive too and decided to keep her. So we adopted Olive, and she never took the place of Luna. She was a completely different dog, but we learned to love her in her own unique, beautiful way. She was so licky. She was so happy to meet any person. She was so scared of other big dogs. Oh, she was a funny girl. And so we raised Olive now, and she was just as beautiful as Luna in her own way. And we had Luna's urn in the house and Olive running around. And then about 10 months into her life, she all of a sudden got sick. And we were like, didn't know what was going on. Danny and I were away, and our friend was looking after her and noticed that she wasn't doing so well, so she brought her to the vet. We were only away for literally 3 days, or 5 days maybe. And then we got back and went and saw her in the vet, and she just kept deteriorating, and the vets didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what was happening. She just kept getting weaker and skinnier and wouldn't eat, and more sick. And yeah, we really didn't know what was going on. The vets thought maybe it was a parasite, and then did a bunch of tests and x-rays and found some masses on her lungs and in her pancreas and liver. And they were big masses, and they said, look, it would be incredibly rare, but it could be cancer or tuberculosis or something like that. And by that point, she was too weak to operate on. So we treated it as best we could, but she just kept getting worse. And then the vet told us that the best option would be to give her a good end of life and put her to sleep. So, yeah, I mean, you can't go against what the vet says. You can, but we didn't feel like we had any options. So we took Olive out of the vet, took her home for one last night with us. And, said I wasn't going to cry. We cooked her favourite meals. We let her sleep on the bed with us. Gave her the best brekkie ever and invited her friends and our friends over to say goodbye. And then we made the call and we asked the vet to come over and put her to sleep in our villa. And we sent her a video that morning and the vet said, she looks really happy. Maybe we should wait. And that absolutely fucking rocked me. To go from accepting this idea that we were going to put our dog down to the vet saying, actually, there's hope. Yeah, that was rough. Because all of a sudden you've got this overwhelming sense of optimism and relief, but also regret. Like, if she's going to be okay, I can't believe I was just about to kill her, you know? So we had to battle with that. But it was a beautiful day. We were so happy that she was going to live. And we started believing and hoping that she would recover. And then, yeah, so we had the day. At that same time, I had a once-in-a-lifetime surf trip planned with my dad, and I was leaving the next morning for that. So I got to leave thinking that she was going to be okay. She had to last 4 days and I'd be back, and then we could deal with it and move on from there. So I went away with Dad, and sure enough, the next day, Danny said that she's gone downhill again and she's going to bring her to the vet. Man, she was sleeping upright. She was in so much pain, she couldn't even lay down anymore. So Danny took her to the vet and had to put her down. And I wasn't even there for it. I watched my second puppy in the space of 12 months pass away through a phone screen. And I have so much respect for Danny being able to do that without me being there. And she had her mum and her best friend there as well. And I wish I could have been there, but unfortunately at that point, there was not much I could do. The next flight was the following morning, and there was no sense in making Olive wait another 24 hours just so I could be there to watch her go. But yeah, that was another tough moment for me. Losing 2 puppies in a year rocked me, seriously. And my auntie in that time. But I got on with it. And I've worked through it. And I've learnt to move on with my life despite how intense that grief was. And now I actually have learnt so much about myself and my future and how I want to move forward through those moments. And I've been able to truly experience the depth of love. And as much as that comes with such an intense feeling of loss and pain, what is life if we don't feel that depth of love? We need both ends of the spectrum. I think a life without love, which subsequently means a life without loss, is boring. I don't want that. I'm happy to love that deeply if it means I'm going to hurt that deeply too. I think that's a worthy sacrifice to make. So those are the most intense feelings or experiences of grief that I've had to deal with in the last 12 months. in my life, but it's all happened in the last 12 months. And interestingly, losing Olive, as much as it hurt just as much, I recovered or bounced back a lot quicker than the first time. And I believe that that's down to having the right mindset and the right tools to deal with the new reality. Now, on that, I want to talk about grief away from myself now. I've given you the rundown. I know that was a bit longer than I anticipated, but I hope you can appreciate the depth of my feelings here and maybe a little bit qualified to actually talk about the things that I'm about to talk about. But I think grief as a whole has a way of shifting our identity and our sense of purpose. Life is easy to feel put together when everything's going right. But as soon as something goes wrong, we tend to question everything. And I think that's a really important moment to have. It's important to question what you're doing and your identity and where you're going, because it's what makes us take stock and see the things that we're enjoying and the things we want to be doing versus the things we're not enjoying and the things we don't want to be doing. When I lost Luna the first time, it made me truly appreciate moments with the people or the things that I love. And I realized that if I'm not doing the things that allow me to have more of those moments, then I'm doing a disservice to myself. I want to be progressing towards a life of love for the people that love me and that I love. So I looked at who I was and what I was doing, and I thought, I don't want to be working as much as I am, so I'm going to stop doing that, because I'd rather be doing things that are impactful to society and to other people, like Uncle Nathan. The work I was doing at the time were long hours for little pay and wasn't really making a difference to the world. So I cut back on that and started doing more Uncle Nathan work to give back to the people, the community that I love, something that fulfills me. And I also stopped taking those moments for granted with people that I love. Tell people what you're thinking. If you love someone, tell them. If you appreciate what they've done, tell them. If you're proud of them, tell them. You might not get another chance to. And not that Luna could understand me or talk back to me, but I'm so glad that Danny and I gave her a life that we thought she was happy with. There wasn't a day where that dog didn't get to run on the beach or run in the rice fields or eat what she wanted to eat. She lived the most amazing 12 months of life. And if that's all that she was going to get, and we knew that from the start, we wouldn't have changed a thing. So I think it's really important that we take these moments and feelings for other people and share it and not take it for granted, because we don't know if that moment's going to happen again. We don't know if we're going to get another chance to share these things. Now, the other side of the coin is the pressure to move on. When we've lost someone or something, we can feel this intense period of hurt and pain and grief and loss and want to get out of it as quickly as possible. And we put this pressure on ourselves to move on by a certain time or in a certain way. And the truth is, that's just not how grief works. You don't ever move on from it. You don't get past it. You just learn to live with it. And typically, grief goes from feeling really intense every moment in the beginning to having intense moments sporadically to reminiscing and feeling sad or feeling appreciative of what you had. And if you can get through that phase, the initial phase of intense moments all the time, then it starts to get a little bit easier. Just now, when I'm telling you about my story of Luna and Olive, I tear up and I feel that sense of grief come back. But on a daily basis, I don't feel it anymore. So it's important to reframe the idea of getting over your grief to, I'm going to learn to live with this grief. And I'm going to figure out what life looks like now that this big change has happened, and it's going to be okay. Life can still be good. It's just going to be different. And I think that reframe is really, really important. So the key is to let yourself feel the emotions. because that's the only way you're going to be able to deal with it. And it's those emotions that actually teach you the most and allow you to move through and progress through the grief. It's in feeling sad and feeling like your world's been turned upside down that you start to question everything. And it's in those questions that you actually find answers. So it's really important not to, when you feel the emotions coming on, don't just sweep it under the rug or do something to distract yourself fully from it. Allow yourself to feel it and understand why you felt it in that moment. And then, my rule is you get 30 seconds. After the initial sadness of it all, whenever I feel those random moments of grief, sadness, I give myself 30 seconds. Let it out, scream, cry, do whatever the fuck you need to do for 30 seconds and then move on. Get on with it. What were you doing before you felt that moment? Find a circuit breaker, put some good music on, go and get out and exercise, go for a run, play paddle, go for a surf or a swim or a walk, play golf. Do something that's going to take you out of the environment that brought that grief on. Sometimes it's unavoidable and you're going to feel the emotions for a little while. But the important thing is to find a circuit breaker. Now, another really important concept that helped me a lot is this idea of firsts, right? When we lose something or when a big change happens for us in our life, it's really common to begin to fear firsts. The first time you go home and see a home without a dog. The first time you wake up single after the loss of a relationship. The first time you have to go to your parents' house after they've passed away. These firsts are terrifying. But a first can only happen once. So the sooner you push yourself to experience the full intensity of the first, the second won't be as intense. And the third will be less intense than that. And the fourth and the fifth and so on. So the idea of being afraid of firsts, I think it's important to push yourself to experience those firsts as quickly as possible. Because only then can you start to be okay with the things that were going to trigger you. So look for the triggers, understand the triggers. Don't push yourself straight into every single one all at once, because that will be overwhelming and very, very hard. But, allow yourself to don't be avoidant of those firsts. The only way to move forward is to get over that speed hump. So find the firsts, figure out the things that are going to be triggering, and find the right environment to allow yourself to trigger and feel the emotions, and then get on with it. And it's a lot easier said than done. It's really fucking hard. It's really hard to get through those firsts. My first walk in the rice fields after we lost Luna was terrifying. But after I did it and realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because that's the other thing. Typically, your worst fear or what you think something's going to feel like usually feels a lot different. So once I realized that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, I actually was able to do it more and more with less and less sadness. And that was really important. Okay, now this episode is dragging on longer than I probably anticipated for this topic, but I think it's important to go deep here. And I wanted to be really raw and vulnerable with you guys, so you could see where the advice is coming from. This is the part of the episode where we jump into community questions. Now, I've got one question this week, and it's a really big question and something that I don't feel qualified to answer, but I'm going to give it a try. I love the question, and I think it could help a lot of people. So the question is, I lost a family member a few months ago, and it's really hit me hard. Not only because they're gone, but because I feel like I didn't appreciate them enough when they were here. How can I learn to live with that regret? Fuck. That's hard. That's really, really hard. Look, like I said, I'm in no way qualified to answer this, but I've got an idea of how I think you can move forward. And I think the first step of that is forgiving yourself. as blunt as this sounds, the past is the past. You cannot change any of that. All you have the ability to control is the present and the actions that you take now for a better future. So allow yourself, forgive yourself for what was done or said or happened in the past, and just think about how you're going to make a change in the future. See, I think about regret as information for the future, not a life sentence. You're not stuck with regret forever, but you should look at the things that you have regret over and allow them to impact your decisions moving forward. As much as, unfortunately, that person's not coming back, you can take this feeling that you have now and the things you wish you said or wish you did and ensure that you don't feel the way that you feel right now again, because inevitably you're going to lose another person that you love. That's just life. So I think the key thing is to take what you're learning from this situation and apply it into the future. If it's because you didn't say I love you enough, say I love you more. Give more hugs. Be there for the people that you love. Allow yourself to figure out the differences or conflict. I think that's something else that we often just let bubble up to a point where it just explodes, is conflict. If you got a problem with someone, fucking tell them. Deal with it. Head on. Approach the conflict, figure it out, and get on with life. There's no point leaving some sort of conflict untouched because it's continually going to get worse and worse and worse. And then you may end up in this situation. I digress. The point is, it sucks and there's nothing you can do about it, but find the information, find the lessons that you can take from it and apply them to your future. Focus on accepting rather than punishing yourself for not doing something. Accept that it sucks and you wish you did more of this, but you have to accept that that's the way it is and life is going to go on. So all you can do is move forward with this new perspective and this new idea of how you want to live and how you want to treat people. And that's my best rendition of an answer to that question. I'm sorry you're going through that. I can't imagine how hard that must feel. And I hope I don't have to, but I know I will lose family members as well. We all will. And unfortunately, that's just part of life. So let's live without regrets and just take this information as it comes, pivot, and make the changes that we need to make to live a more fulfilled and happy life. So to wrap up today's episode, one of the big takeaways that I want you to think about is that, unfortunately, grief doesn't leave. All it does is change shape. You don't get over things. You just learn to live with them. So to reframe this period of intense grief that you're going through, it's really important to understand that I'm going to take this moment by moment. And eventually the intensity is going to wear off. And I'll be left with random moments of grief, but it's not going to be as full on as it feels right now. And I think that's really empowering. So push through it, allow yourself to feel the emotions and just continue moving forward as slowly as you need to. There is no timeline for this. It might take a long time. But in saying that, put yourself in environments that are going to help you progress and start to learn to live with these things. If you're constantly putting yourself in a triggering environment or not doing things that are going to make you happy again and see the light in life, then you are going to feel really sad for a long time, and that's no good for anyone. So allow yourself to feel sad when you get triggered, and then take certain actions that are going to bring back the happiness in your life. That's where I want to leave today's episode. Quick update on the book. No change from last week. Still with the publisher, waiting for her to read it and get back to me. Fingers crossed on that one. Today's episode has been intense and a mixture of my experience and some of my advice. And if you've listened this far, I hope you've got something out of it. If you have, please let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram at Uncle Nathan Co. Guys, just before I sign off for this podcast episode, it is Mental Health Month, and today was a heavy episode. So if anything in the episode did trigger you, or you feel like you're in a state of crisis right now, I urge you to please contact Lifeline. You can reach them on 13 11 14, and you can do it at any time.
or just visit lifeline.org.au to access their web chat every night from 7 p.m. to midnight. It's really, really important. Sometimes the things that we go through in life are incredibly overwhelming and can feel just too much for us to handle on our own. And that's why there are some incredible resources out there to help you through these times. Otherwise, a family member, a friend that you can trust. It's really important that we have this support network. But if you don't have anything, Lifeline is there for you.
Otherwise, look out for next Monday's story, where I'll be sharing the topic of the week for you to leave any questions or topics or guests that you want me to interview. Reach out. I love chatting with all of you. So please reach out if you're on Instagram. Otherwise, leave the show a rating and review. That goes a long, long way in helping me out and helping get this out to more people. Appreciate you guys. See you next week.